The verse of the day is James 4:4-5, and it says, "You adulterers, don't you realize that friendship with the world makes you an enemy of God? I say it again, if you want to be a friend of the world, you make yourself an enemy of God. Do you think the scriptures have no meaning? They say that God is passionate, that the spirit he has placed within us should be faithful to him." We are getting called out and being called adulterers. When he uses the word adulterer, he's actually saying you're cheating on God. It's a good way to explain the difference. Obviously, when you fall into adultery, you're cheating on your husband or your wife. When you grow in relationship with Jesus, you are now married to him. Your life is no longer, your life is his. And so when we are entertaining the ways of the world and living one foot in, one foot out, we're actually cheating on God. When we're one foot in, one foot out, that house can't stand. You're actually communicating that you don't fear God entirely, that you think that you know the way in this way, but you want to follow him here. Or maybe you want to go to church and you believe in him, but you want to live your life here. You're still opening the door to sin, and sin brings death, right? Sin brings disconnection with your relationship with God, because it says, I want to be my own God. And it says, God, I don't trust you with this. And in order for us to grow in relationship with God, it's building trust. And spiritual law is, if you open the door to sin, that's bondage, that's pain, that's stripping yourself of love. It's bringing confusion and anxiety and the things that causes torment. And so if I look at someone who's one foot in, one foot out, it really just communicates to me that they haven't tasted the fullness of God. That they actually just don't know what they're missing, that they're actually just naive to what they have available to them. Because if you actually knew, you wouldn't go there. If you actually knew, you would want to deny that and pursue God and run after him to get all your needs met, of feeling loved and chosen and seen and enough. Because really, when we entertain the world, those are the needs we're trying to meet. When we're trying to gain all the money and status and possessions and do all the things, we're trying to meet a need to be enough, and to tell ourselves that we're not failures, and that we're lovable, and that we're good, and that we're doing this thing called life right. But it's filling a part of our heart with temporary pleasures, things that will actually never sustain us long term. The worldly wisdom actually causes more harm and destruction, not only to the people around you, but to your own soul. You can either be a friend of the world or a friend of the one who created it. Because if we're friends with the world, we're functioning counter kingdom. We're going to be easy targets for the enemy to deceive us, and for us to have selfish ambition and to live in our sinful nature. But when we are allowing the one who created the world to be our friend, that's the only way we get access to power over all of those sinful habits. This is a battle we cannot fight or win without the presence and power of God. And so when you're one foot in, one foot out, you're actually dimming the power. You're saying, I'm opening the door to this, and you're not tapping into true power, because you're allowing this in your life. You're allowing the ways of the world, the sin, the evil thoughts and desires to take control. And in the Bible, it says, whatever you feed more will lead your life. If you're feeding the ways of the world in your sinful nature, and you're letting your urges and desires lead you, that's going to be the leader of your life. Pain and anxiety and you having to take the burden on of making your life happen and doing everything right and trying to stop bad habits in your own strength when you can't, that's going to be the leader of your life. But when we allow the Spirit to lead us, when we stay plugged into relationship with God, when we're a friend of God, when Jesus is our friend, we tap into his power. We tap into the Holy Spirit that actually disarms, slowly but surely, as we grow in relationship with him, exposes the parts of our heart that don't look like kingdom, and heals it and restores it and fills our heart with everything that it's needing, that we used to go to the world to meet. This might be a funny example, but David and Goliath. If David was one foot in, one foot out when he had to go defeat Goliath, and he was like, well, I kind of like them. I kind of like Goliath. I don't want to hurt him because I'm enjoying this. He probably wouldn't have as strong as a motivation to kill him, and knowing that he could kill him because he wants them to live, because he's dabbling in their life or he's friends with them. But because he knew where he stood and he knew his role and his relationship with God, he knew that he was an enemy. He knew Goliath was an enemy, so he had to kill his enemy. And so there was no second guessing. There was no wondering if David was going to go after him with everything he had. And this is how we need to see our sin. We need to see the sin in our life as the Goliath that we are 100% going after to kill, because we know who God is and we know what God says and we know our relationship with him. And that shows us that we trust God. God can overcome any Goliath in our life. He can set you free from anything, help you overcome anything. So when we walk into battle, any of the battles in our life, with that mindset of God is with me, he's equipped me, and I can slay this giant with him on my side, you're not going to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because God is your friend. You don't want the enemy. You don't even want to entertain it. But if you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, you're not going to be able to slay the Goliaths of your life, because you're entertaining it. You're 1 foot in with the Goliath, with the enemy. Verse 5 says, do you think the scriptures have no meaning? They say that God is passionate, that the spirit he has placed within us should be faithful to him. God gives us the Holy Spirit, right? The Holy Spirit is the Spirit of God. And so when the Spirit of God lives in us and we're growing in relationship with God, this is why we get convicted with certain sin, because it's the Spirit of God alerting us that that is not good. That is not kingdom. That is not good for your heart. It grieves God because it's anti-him. So the Holy Spirit is our little radar in our heart, alerting us when things are not right and helping us turn from them so that we can actually get right. And the getting right is going to be the God in us getting right. And he doesn't give us more than we can handle. He doesn't test us more than we can handle. He knows we can overcome it with him. We just have to lean on his power and strength to do so. This is why it's very scary when someone does not have conviction, when someone is not a man or a woman of conviction, because that means they're not listening to the Holy Spirit. And they've actually just taken things into their own hands, and they're their own leader. And that means you're an enemy of God. We need to listen to conviction. We have to listen to what God is saying to us in our heart, and that is built through relationship. Growing in relationship with God and learning how to be led by the Holy Spirit and being obedient with what he says, being all in for Jesus, running after him, following him, and denying the parts of us that don't look like him is how we stay on his team and in alignment with his heart and linked to his power. But when we're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, this is how we're absent of his power, and how we allow the waves of the world to take over us in a way that strips us from love, strips our identity. Eventually we lead to confusion or burnout. If you're growing in relationship with Jesus, the sin you fall into will bother you because it's the Holy Spirit convicting you. And that's key. That you're in a great place. We're all going to fall short in sin, but if you're aware and you're constantly trying to turn, that's the best we can do. But if you're ignoring it, that makes you an enemy of God. So we need to be aware of the convictions of our heart. Okay?